Shipley. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing today? It's great to be here.
I'm doing amazing. I had the honor of interviewing your daughter for episode 9, where we talked about mental health. And a testament to you, like I mentioned in the pre-interview, she said, Yigal, you're doing something incredible, but you need to talk to my father. He's an amazing man, and what he's accomplished in his life is incredible. So a great testament to you as a father and as a human being.
Well, I appreciate that. And as you know, we chat about this. My 3 girls, my wife, and my 2 girls are everything. They're my big why. So
incredible. So I'm surrounded by women as well. I've got a wife, 3 daughters. So I will reach out to you more on how to navigate the years as they come up, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
I know it's not easy. Great. So Tom, like I said in the intro, former IDF Special Forces soldier, serial entrepreneur, investor, you've grown companies to amazing heights. But I do want to talk about something. You're a guy born in the States who served in the IDF Special Forces. Tell us more about that, and then we'll get into the entrepreneurial journey.
It's really interesting. So I come from a family that along the journey, when I was in my probably 8, 9 is when my parents took their first trip to Israel and started getting involved and bringing in Zionism into the house. So it wasn't foreign to me. So it was where I was raised. In high school, I got involved with the Zionist youth group, Beitar. I was a counselor camp. So again, it's part of my connection and DNA. And I did spend a year in Israel on a leadership training program when I was 18. So again, all that fabric. And for me, as I studied and learned, especially during my high school years and during that period of your time, you're looking for starting to ask questions about the reasons behind life and what is the purpose of life and how do I have an impact to the world. And I was learning more about Jewish history and the creation of this incredibly young state of Israel, Zionism, and the Holocaust, and also the resistance. And you look at what happened in the Warsaw Ghetto and how they held the German army at bay. And it was basically kids. Even the foundation state of Israel, the underground was primarily young adults and kids. So again, and understanding the impact that it's not at a certain age, the impact that youth can have in changing the destiny of our, in that time, our country and the creation of it, it created this powerful impact and this vision and this connection that I had. So after my year in Israel, I got back. I was at Florida State University, and life is fun, right? Life is great. It's fraternity and pledging, and life is great. And one day, it's middle of my of the semester, I came home, and my parents said, "Tom, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Sit down." They said, "Why?" They said, "Well," I said, "this fraternity thing is great, and this college thing is great, but something, it's just not real life. I'm ready to have real impact in my life. So at the end of the semester, I'm leaving university. I'm going to move to Israel and join the Israeli army." Wow. And my dad said, "Okay, let's talk seriously, Tom." He said, "You don't know the language." He said, "You don't really understand what the army is all about. You really are not in tune with the culture is. If you run, but you're really not that much of an athlete. So if you move to Israel, you'd be pushing paper as a bureaucrat." Now, for me, I love when people underestimate me. It fuels my fire. So I did the end of the semester. I did leave. I did move to Israel. While I was trying to get into the army and change my citizenship and getting Israeli citizenship, the first war in Lebanon broke out, and that was the catalyst for me finally starting my process of getting in. And I learned so much about the army, and I studied it, and I found out about the top 3 special forces unit, and one of them was focused on rescue. And I created this vision where it became very, very clear to me, Yigal, as far as I saw myself in the unit, and I didn't really care about the odds. And just like as an entrepreneur, you have to ignore the odds. You either are part of that 0.01% or you're everything else. Same thing here is you have to just ignore that and have that clear vision and just understand that nothing will stop you. And ultimately, the numbers are 170,000 soldiers in the Army, 60,000 combat soldiers, 10,000 soldiers try to get into my unit. They pick 1,000 soldiers to go through Hell Week. At the end of Hell Week, they picked 25 of us. And during the Hell Week, it was an incredible process because they try to break you physically. They try to break you emotionally. They measure things. And a big part of what they do is even measuring on trust. Just a little side story is, how do you measure someone on trust? So I remember that we'd been up all day, all night. They finally let us go down for sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning. We're exhausted. We could barely move. We're just in pain everywhere in our body from jumping down on cactuses, and my fingers have splinters all over them and they're cracking to just pure exhaustion. And so, but an hour later, suddenly there's just shots and there's waking us up, and then they get us lined up and they said, we want you to go out into the dark. You'll see a phosphorus light about 100 meters ahead. When you sprint there as fast as possible, go down and do 100 push-ups. And then we're timing you when you get back, the next person going, we're registering this. So they sent us off. And then I went down. Remember, I did what I thought was 100. I said, oh my God, maybe that's 99. I don't remember. So I went and jumped down and did a couple extra, and ran back. It turned out that, but it's in the middle of the dark. Who would ever know if I did even one of them? Turned out that there was someone out there with night vision goggles.
Oh, wow. Counting.
And in the next morning, they kicked out a dozen people because they just didn't do it.
Wow.
Because again, if you look at the spectrum is that I've learned over time, and I focus on this, and I'm building my teams. If you look on an X and Y axis between performance and talent and trust, okay, I will all day long. I need high performance tier 1 players, but don't need the greatest athletes, the greatest performers on teams in the world, the number 1 sales guy, the number 1 CFO. I don't need that if I have the highest level of trust, because it's what builds a culture, and that culture in that team and the level of trust. Because ultimately, when we're out and we're doing rescues and we drop down helicopters, and whether we're a 2-man team or a 3 or 4-man team that's out there, is you have to have 100% trust that everyone's going to do what they say they're going to do, and their equipment is checked, and you're out in the field. So that trust is so important. So anyways, they tested for so many things. At the end of the week, they would pick 25 of us. Amazing, different training for 18 months. But part of that was also trying to cut down the numbers to find the people that could actually be soldiers of that qualifications. They trained us everything from medics to, we were embedded with the Sayeret Sankanim with for our basic training, which is the the paratroopers, commandos of the paratroopers. We went through everything from doing demolition or urban warfare, repelling, rescues in the water, rescue by sea, rescue off cliffs, from ropes, helicopter rescues. So again, it was an incredible training, but at the end of that 18 months, there were 13 of us that remained. And those men are probably the finest people among the finest I've ever met, and are still to this day the same thing. And what they've done in their lifetime has been amazing. But that's the story of how I got there.
So let me ask you this question, because I had Nir on an episode, and he was in the Lotar combat unit, I guess it's called. And he was talking about how, like, you're kind of groomed for this when you're in Israel, and, everyone wants you to be a soldier, and it's kind of normal. How did they see you as an American coming in, going through this process, making it through the, 60,000, 10,000, the 25? Did they ever see you differently? Did they see you as a brother, or was it like, this guy's never going to make it because he was born in the States, he doesn't understand what we've gone through?
People never understood it. And the world has changed because over the years, again, while I might have lone soldier rights back then, which were really basic, but since then, there was no value appreciation. Now there's this appreciation for lone soldiers, and a lone soldier is a soldier that moves from outside Israel and moves inside Israel and doesn't have the support of a family. So again, it changed since then, but every morning we'd wake up, and one of the guys that either I shared the tent with the room would turn around and say, Thomas, Thomas, we know why we're here. Why are you here? Every day it was the same exact thing. And so I'm going to say, while there was some appreciation to the core of it, but but during the whole process, I was always, I was the underdog, and just counted that I would actually make it.
Amazing. Incredible. So you went through that. Obviously, after the 18 months of training, you went into being this elite soldier, doing the rescues. At what point did you move back, or did you decide to, was it like, I'm done with my service, I'm good, I'm going to go back to the States, start a family, build
So
business?
what I did is I decided to come back to the States to get my education because while my Hebrew, by the time I finished the Army, which again, it's going from horrible Hebrew to pretty fluent, I still learning advanced concepts was still difficult for me. So I said, let me go back to the States, finish my education quickly and move back to Israel. And then a 3-year plan turns into a 30-year plan. So that was it. So I'm going to say I left part of my heart and my soul in Israel, and it's still there.
Gotcha. And obviously, like, you brought back a lot of the lessons that you learned from the training, from being in these forces to build the business that you've built. I mean, you've built multiple brands, omni-channel, you've founded companies, you've raised equity, just from your posts. And I follow you doing some incredible things. And I believe I'm going to be at your house on the 16th of June.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So I was chosen to be there, and I'm figuring stuff out, but I'm going to be there. And how did what you learned being in those elite forces help you to grow what you've built today?
No, you start with this is some of the core lessons is one of them that I'm sure people have heard, but we learned the core way. And there's different permutation. I was taught that a good medic and a good soldier is one. A good soldier, a good medic is one who improvises. It's not about the resources you have, it's about resourcefulness. Mm-hmm. So again, there's some core things that you do. There's also about grit and tenacity is, it was interesting. I don't know if you ever read the book, You Can't Hurt Me, David Coggins.
Yeah, for sure. I actually listened to it, which is a whole different experience.
Okay.
Hearing him talk to you.
Oh yeah, I love his voice. And so it's really, really powerful. But the only disconnect between me and him was that quitting was never an option. So again, he talked about his getting into the SEALs and the different levels of win, and basically the quitting and then starting again and getting up again and going. And to me, is quitting was never an option. Is that level of tenacity is you don't quit ever. And I didn't care if my legs fell off, I would not quit. And so that same bit of, I could call that focus, tenacity, and that grit is what's key in business. And so, and you have to have the ability to have the long-term view on things. And so the powerful thing for a young kid is when you go and you spend 3 years in the military is you understand a 3-year commitment is easy.
Love that.
Therefore is saying I'm going to be, let me do this for 6 months and I'm going to become a multimillionaire and I'm going to be then, it's like, are you fucking serious? So excuse the expression on that, but
no, you can cuss here. It's okay.
Okay. But that's really it. It's about taking the long-term view. It's about envisioning, again, getting the unit, envisioning where you're going to go to. It's about creating that plan, because in logistics and planning is everything in the military, and understanding that. It's about understanding that you never have the resources that are ideal. And the question is, you can either whine about it. And again, this whole thing about whining drives me nuts. But you either whine about it, complain about it, or you look at what you can do. You look for what we call in the military is force multipliers, things that give you unfair advantage, and how can you find leverage to succeed. And whether that is finding out what your core capabilities, what your team core capabilities, how you can get strategic relationships, strategic alliances, how you can do acquisitions that will give you that unfair advantage. Again, those are all core things you learn in the military, and you just pivot them for what you do. It's how do you build that trusting culture? What's interesting as a leader in the Army, you're taught that from basic training, you have that little bit of again, I care about my soldiers, always have, and my commanders always cared about me, but there was always that little bit of distance. Yeah. That again, it's, I remember that my first business that I was growing in, we were growing fast from, I think, 3 employees. And a year later we had our 100 employees, and it was crazy. And a woman that was in our call center, who was one of the supervisors, who said, Tom, here's what I appreciate is my life at home is a mess. We won't go into it. My life at home is a mess. But when I walk in the door, the professional environment here and the respect that everyone has for each other and the focus, she said, I'm able to leave it at the door. And again, so I didn't get into people's personal stuff. They always knew that I was there to support them. Yeah. But again, these are core things you learn in the military that are absolutely transferable. Also, let's talk about risk. what's the worst thing that, let me put it this way, and I need to put context on it for everyone understands is, I go to businesses to win, period. And I go all in. And especially if I'm using third party money, whether it's a bank, whether it's a lender, whether it's investors, is I take that extremely seriously. I go to win. But let's face it, is what's the worst thing that could happen in a business?
The worst thing that can happen is lose the money.
Right. Okay. And you go to business, you start again. Okay. What's the worst thing that can happen in your family life?
Losing the health of your family. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's what you call as real risk versus, so again, I take it very seriously. And let me just tell a story for a second. So it was 2018 and wow, the business was doing great. We were doing about 100 million a year in revenue. We had some challenges, there's always cycles. So we got through our challenges and we're on top, and we got 3 term sheets to buy our business between 55 to $85 million. And we were being very pedantic about which one we choose and which one we pick, or we go out and get some more bids, and everything was going great. And we're going to close this within the next 90 to 120 days, and life is going to be beautiful. And then we're on to our next thing. And one of our manufacturer, the sole manufacturer in the world that's FDA licensed to manufacture our core product, which is our continuity, our auto ship revenue, our product that ships out every month, they went bankrupt. Oh. They couldn't bank, doors shut. Chapter 7. And again, from them, that perspective is, it means we were 100% cut off and there was no one licensed in the world to manufacture this product.
Crap.
So basically we went from making close to $1 million a month to basically we weren't even covering our, we broke even before overhead. So we were losing $600,000 a month like this. And then 2 other bad things happened that created complexities. Our lender said, we're shutting you off.
Yeah. And
now I'm also personally guaranteed. So you're talking about pressure. So from the height to sitting there saying, and then if we go out of business, do we have our ecosystem of a couple thousand employees that rely on our company for their income? They're going to be have real problems. And again, the ripple effect is really significant. So I was in Boise, Idaho for Russell Brunson's Inner Circle, and I brought my family out or my wife out, Pam, and it was our first meeting, and it was a cold, it was a cold day. And I remember we went for a jog along the Boise River, and I remember there was this mist in the air, and you could feel just the dampness. And I'm running with Pam, and I said, can we go dark and go to the dark side of the worst things that can happen? She said, let's go there. She said, okay, tell me what's going on. And she knew, but she wanted me to verbalize it. And I said, well, right now is the bank's calling our line. We're losing 600,000. We were as bare bones. We've gotten rid of as much overhead as we can. And things look really dark at this time. She says, and okay, so what happens? I said, well, if we can't turn around, then the business goes under. I said, then what? I said, then a couple thousand people are really in a problematic situation. She said, then what happens? I said, we're personally guaranteed. I said, we have 2 different issues. One is we'll lose everything, probably the house, could be the cars, but we'll lose everything and we'll owe money to the IRS because of the way everything's structured. She said, and then what? I said, then we'll probably move into an apartment. And she said, and then what? She said, where will we be 5 years from now? I said, better than we are now. And better than we were 6 months ago. She said, so what do you worry about?
Smart woman.
And so, and so she's a psychotherapist, and she's from Brooklyn. So she's tough and very direct. So she keeps me very honest and very straight, but it was just that paradigm shift to saying, okay, I know what the worst is and I can live with the worst. So then what I did is the next week or 2 was me getting on the phone with everyone I know and respected and I can network with to say, give me your ideas. Then me rank stacking them, put together a plan. I just needed a plan that was impossible enough to be possible.
Yeah.
And then basically it's massive imperfect action. And then pulling the team together. A few people weren't in it. Their heart wasn't, they left. Therefore, and I brought in a couple of new team members that it was probably among the best year I had in my life.
Amazing.
Turning that business around to, again, getting to that level of close to $1 million a month in profit, and then creating another liquidity event. But basically working with a team where everyone rolls up their sleeve. I worked so harder in that year, but that core of tenacity, focus, it never occurred to me to ever give in or give up. All that core prioritization. So as you look at the core of it, is I got it from the military, from the IDF.
So let me ask you this question. Can any leader get that? If you haven't been broken down and built back up in an army, can a leader of a company, a CEO, a small business, you went into the army with, I think, with already that mentality, like, I'm not going to fail. I'm not going to fail. So it wasn't built in the army that you're not going to fail. It was built in before, but then was it solidified in the army? Like, I'm not going to fail.
It was tested and proven.
Gotcha. So go ahead.
I would say a lot of times by putting ourselves through the fire, we can see where we're really up. And the other thing is we have to understand the advantage I have, and I'm going to say this is because I'm a direct response marketer. Direct response marketer means that you're testing a lot of variables. And if you're doing a good job, 3 out of every 10 things should work, and you're doing a really good job. You're failing at 6 to 7 out of every 10 things. You're failing 60 to 70% of the time. Okay. So it's a different philosophy and different attitude as far as how you're taking your swings and how you're testing things. So understanding that failure is, we have to get over what failure is it's all learning, and we learn through things that don't work out for us. And there's certain fear of the shame that's involved with failing in anything that I think paralyzes people. And it's from an ego perspective. And when we get over that and put things in perspective, and because of that fear, sometimes people are afraid to go all in. And when you don't go all in, if I could just tell a story for a quick second, which was a learning lesson. This is when I spent the year in Israel, and we were going for a hike from Jerusalem down to the Jericho. And we were at Wadi Kelt, and there was we were going along. It was beautiful. It was spring, the flowers, the Kali Niot just started popping out. The poppies started coming out. It was beautiful, and everyone's walking on these big stones in the middle of the river, dried out riverbed. And I saw a goat trail. So I said, oh, I'm just going to go on the goat trail. It's easier to walk on. So I started following the goat trail, and it's going higher and higher and higher. And then about 5 or 10 people are following me. We're going down this goat trail. And then I got to the point of the goat trail where there was, it ended, but about 2 feet in front of me, about 2 feet down, there was the next ledge. Easy, you can jump it. It was just something that's easy there. But at that point, I didn't share with you, I had a horrible fear of heights.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then, that's another reason I want to get
doing rescue. Yeah.
Because I wanted to test way I just confront my weaknesses is go head on into it.
Yeah.
So I went to, I started counting myself 1, 2, and at the count of 3, I hesitated. I slipped, and I fell about 10 feet onto some rocks. Now, luckily, I fell onto my canteen, splattered everywhere, on my thigh. And luckily, if it wasn't my thigh breaking onto the canteen, I probably would have broken my back. Oh. But the lesson that taught me is hesitation will kill you. If you're going to go, you focus, you have your plan, but when you commit all the way, and you just go. And you let the fear and everything else and the negative stories, part of it, the challenge in life is that the older we get, the more shit happens to us and the more negative stories. And most of it is the negative stories we have as kids that create the reinforcing loop. We have our frontal cortex, which is supposed to be protecting ourselves from negative things in our dinosaur brain. And so our brain naturally gets into these loops. And how do we end these protective loops of why we can't do things and why we shouldn't, and the failure and the fear of it. And the biggest thing we have to do, as in every part of our lives, is to figure out how we can constantly rewire our brain and open up to the possibilities and take risks, learn and grow. And it's not easy because it's against our natural wiring to do that. So how do we do that? And that's what I constantly try to challenge myself on doing, is how do I open up that learning and growth and keep on taking the risk? And even though I still get the same things of the fear of failure, the fear of shame involved with it, is just changing that philosophy to embrace it.
You talked about failure, and the first thing that came up to me was, you were in the elite forces, and it helped you through business and to jump and not hesitate. Has there been a failure in your life, or some people call it a lesson learned? Has there been something in your life that you didn't do as well as you thought, where you failed at and you were like, shit, like that one hurt?
By the way, I have a large number of them. One, there's
One.
a large number of them. Okay. But by the way, it's just and they were painful things and they were humiliating. And the negative consequences was really bad for me and my family. So, and my employees. However, what you do is you learn, you say, okay, what do I learn and how do I prevent this from happening again? And let's just not do it and let me become better and let me create more opportunity for more people in the future. And, you have to go back to what drives you. Understanding your why, if you're only chasing dollars, no matter how desperate you are for money, is you got the game wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Ultimately, I don't care how much money someone has at the end of the day when they're on their deathbed. The question is I wish I would have made an extra $100 and that $1,000, $1 million, $10 million. You think that's ever it? Or is it how many lives did I impact in a positive way?
Yeah. 100%.
And
I mean,
it's my wife's.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing. I think a lot of times people just, get a job and they do what they need to do to provide and it doesn't work out, but they're not in alignment with their why. So the guy listening to this podcast, he's in his car, he's at work with his, his ear pods on or whatever that is. How does he gain that tenacity? Does he have to put himself through, I'm signing up for, I forgot his Mark Devine's Seal Fit here in San Diego. It's like a 12-hour crucible, right? I like to stretch myself. Spartan races. Do we have to sign up for these crucibles? Do we have to put ourselves through these intense physical and emotional, mind stretching things to get that tenacity? What's the best way to do that?
Well, first of all, is having the honest dialogues with yourself. It starts with that. And I'm also a big believer is look at the circle. I start with the circle of influence around me. It's the people that I surround myself with. If I have naysayers around me, it creates more challenge. If I have people that are supportive, I don't mean that I should have yes people in my organizations or my the 3 women in our life are not yes women. My wife is challenging, okay? But she's supportive and she's positive. The people in my life are positive, and I deal best within a positive environment. That is who I choose to surround myself with. Friends, and people that challenge me to think bigger and higher. The people I surround myself in business, the people that I did look to seek to develop a relationship, and something you always invest in yourself. If you're, it's crazy is, if your kid needs $40,000 a year for a college education or 50 or 60, do you figure out a way to get those? Okay. And now you have 3 girls coming up and your weddings. Okay. Eventually.
Okay.
Okay.
Got to make some money.
Way to have it. But when someone says, hey, why don't you take this course for $2,000, $10,000, $20,000 in yourself? How many of us don't do that?
Yeah.
If you found a coach that will cost you $10,000 a month, but will change your life forever, would you invest? Most people would not.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the question is, but those people that you surround yourself with that challenge you, that help you think differently. And just the fact is, going through the process changes the person you are, creating that momentum. Again, I said you get stuck in these loops. We need to have those crucibles of those things to change us. And, I'll share this is that when I moved to Austin, I actually hired a coach who kind of goes a little bit into the therapy side, but he's probably he's the best executive coach I've ever met in my life. He's also Matthew McConaughey's coach, John Mackey from Whole Foods. So he's an elite coach, and I'm paying crazy amount of money that I never said I would never, ever spend. With the work he's done in helping me open up my brain and adding zero, help me visualize how I define myself and add zeros onto my idea, something I never expect. But at the same time, my business partner that I brought in, that we started this new business with, Agency Ventures Aggregate, we're creating a roll-up to change the way large agencies, global agencies are built. And so Peter said to me, Tom, you have a coach in your life for your business side. He said, why don't you have it for your physical side? I said, I don't need it. He said, yes, you do. And I said, besides, I've been an injured athlete. I had back surgery 5 years ago where I could barely walk, and and there's limitations to what I have. He said, I'm going to introduce you to my coach, Natasha, who runs the Tribe program in town. And she said, when I started chatting with her, chatting with her, she said, what would be your goals? I said, number one, don't get injured. She said, what's your second goal? I said, don't get injured. What's your third? I said, don't get injured. And then she said, what's your fourth is then to push myself as far as I can. She said, okay. And then she helped rebuild me in the way I do it. She said, you're going to keep on running like that. You're going to get injured all day long. I'll show you how to run. Swimming, I'm going to show you how to swim. Biking, the same thing. And therefore, I'm going to do my first Olympic try on Monday, and I'm going to do a 70.3 Ironman in October.
Amazing.
But the process, you got yes question is, what do you do as far as what crucibles? It's, as you know, this when you did Spartan races, when you challenge yourself and push yourself to a new level, your brain thinks differently. You think differently about yourself, and you have the confidence then to push different boundaries and open up. It doesn't matter about your relationships, whether you're more open and more vulnerable, whether it's with your team, your employees, your company, you think about the world differently. And so it is those crucibles, those challenging, those breakdowns. I don't know if you're pretty sure you heard this, that you can do your best learning up to the age of 18. You can even do learning up to the age of 26. And after that it's difficult to teach people things.
Yeah.
So therefore, typically it's breakdown is the context for breakthrough. It is the breakdowns where you learn your biggest things. Well, therefore we need to create events in our lives that challenge us, that creates these breakdowns, that opens us up.
I was in Austin 3-4 weeks ago with Nicholas Bailey's group.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Yeah. And we did the ice bath.
Yeah.
And I was scared shitless. I mean, I was like, I'm going to die going into this ice bath. And 2 minutes changed my whole perspective in life. Like, if I can do that, I can do so much more. And people always say, like, why do you do Spartan races? Why are you signing up for SEAL Fit? Because for me, I need to stretch myself. But the difference between us on this call and maybe somebody who's listening is that we want to stretch. We want to grow, and we don't want to stay comfortable. I don't want to stay comfortable. I want growth. I want to be extremely successful in business, extremely successful in my marriage, extremely successful as a father, right? And so in order to do that, I've got to stretch myself and be very uncomfortable and learn, what I don't know. And one of the things that you mentioned before, for those of you who don't know, Russell Brunson's Inner Circle is a mastermind. People pay lots of money. They're big marketers, incredible business minds who go to that. I know some people who have been inside of it, so kudos to you for that. But a lot of times in our community, we're taught to be comfortable. In the Jewish community, we're pat on the back. Oh, you're doing good. That's fine. Just be a mensch. Oh, it's okay. Right? Just be a good guy. That's fine. But I think it's like what you said. We've got to stretch ourselves to grow, to be more successful, to learn something new. And especially, I'm 42. If I don't put myself through a crucible, if I don't put myself through, so I did 75 hard and all these types of things, I know that every time I do this, it hurts. Like, there's pain through it. But on the other end, it's extreme beauty.
So as a Jew, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How would you feel that at the age of 80, you're looking back on your life and what you said is, well, I was comfortable and I had a nice, mediocre life?
I would hate it. I'll even take it one step further for you. Sorry. My father passed away 2 years ago, and he had Parkinson's and dementia at 59 years old. Very well, like 12 stores, 12 pawn shops, 180 employees. 59 was diagnosed with Parkinson's and dementia. By 63, he had people wiping his ass, right? And the whole time, like right when he got Parkinson's, he went to the rabbi and said, I wish I would have had more time with my family. I wish I would have traveled more. I wish I would have done more, because now I can't. So forget 80. And that's what drives me. 59 years old, how old are you, Tom, if I may ask?
Older than that.
Older than that. I'm, 17 years away from that. And I'm just like, fuck no, I will not be mediocre. I will not live an average life. It's not okay. And that saying, like, better late than never, sometimes late is too late. That's what I've learned.
I'll throw this out. Here's the living life in dichotomies and figuring out how to live life with opposing views is positive, but not easy. So here's what I've been wrestling with for the last year. I'm living my life as if I'm making investments as if my best decade of my life is 3 decades from now. At the same time, I'm living life like I only have 1 year left to live.
I love that.
Again, so it's a balance and
Yeah.
I'm getting comfortable with both, that I'm going all in for the year, but I'm making investments that 3 decades from now is the best will be the best decade of my life. So I'm building plans for that. And that's it. And as Jews, we have responsibilities. We have responsibility for or Goyim. We're responsible for Tikkun Olam, making the world a better place. Okay.
Yeah.
And from a position of, and yes, we have moral responsibilities to be good peoples, to be mensches, to take care of the people in our lives, be great husband, great parents. Okay. Those are our, and in general, being a good person, that's our, of course, responsibilities. But we have a responsibility in life as Jews to have impact. And the best way to have impact is we have to invest in ourselves and grow, which increases our capacity and our capability to have it and to challenge ourselves.
I love that.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's incredible. Tom, this has been amazing. I think that we can, it's been an honor to get to know you. That we can probably talk for 2 hours. But I think that I want to wrap it up here because I want the guys to understand what you just said. Like, it's about the impact. It's about growth. It's about investing in yourself and not just being surrounded by the people that you've always been surrounded by, who give you the attaboy, good job, it's okay. I have friends who I'll talk to and I'll say like, oh, I'm having issues with my wife. And they'll turn around and say like, oh, we all have it. It's okay. Women suck. But I want the friend who's gonna be like, well, where are you the asshole? Where are you? Where are you not showing up for your wife the way she needs you to show up? And to, give me a good slap across the face. That's the people I want to be surrounded by. And sometimes we just sit and we're so okay with where we are that going back to like full circle, you can't become elite. You can't face fear if you're just sitting in average.
if I can tell one final story,
Please.
which hopefully will be helpful, which was very impactful for me. My daughter was in college having an amazing time at Elon University. And so when I went to text her, I text her every, almost, on a regular basis, I text her and she never she responds to one of every text. And I actually was getting angry and resentful that she was not showing me the respect I deserve as her father. I created this life for her. I've always given, always been all in, and how dare she not respond to me? And then I went to it was Funnel Hacking Live with, again, it was just an event, 5,000 people in the audience, and Garrett White was there speaking. And so Garrett he brought his son there that he told the story that he was, his first marriage was a disaster and he was estranged from his son and he didn't have a relation with his son. And then one day he just started texting every day to his son. Never heard a thing back for a year and a half, but every day he would just put the love out there and text his son. And one day his son was at university, he said, "Dad, I'm really having problems in my life. Can I come out and live with you? This isn't working out for me." He said, "Now I have this incredible relationship with my life." He said, "Our responsibility as parents is not to expect anything in return. It's just to show up." And just then, with all my heart, I started texting my daughter every day, just open heart. And then within a week, like something had changed. She was replying. Our relationship and nature of our dialogue, it just changed. I don't know how. It's like she felt it. And all I did is I never expect anything in return from my kids. My job as a father, no matter what, till the day that I'm no longer here, is just to show up for them and just be all heart. The same thing for my wife, to make sure that she knows she's valued and appreciated and show up with expecting nothing in return. And it's amazing how that was a huge benefit to my life. And hopefully that if it helps one person, that'd be beautiful.
I love that. And I'm so glad you brought up Garrett, because I've been to his warrior business boot camp. I've followed him for years. He's actually an influence in Tribesmen, like what he does for warrior in Tribesmen in a way. So I love that you brought him up. It's awesome. Tom, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your story. If you want to connect with Tom, you can go to tshipley.com. That's SHIPLEY, or find him online on Instagram. You're also, I'm guessing, like LinkedIn and different places. And it's not just following, like you post incredible content about business, about life, inspiring. So you're a great person to follow. There's no negativity. There's no, bullshit. You're just honest in the way it is. So thank you for being a leader in those spaces. And one more thing, I always say this to all my guests. I hope you are blessed with strength and courage to keep doing what you're doing. For those of you listening, stay tuned for the next episode of the Tribesmen podcast. Thank you so much, Tom.